Hi there, nice to meet you, Serkan. Serkan Taycan, artist with a focus on the transformation of urban and rural spaces and condition of local communities. So I try to summarize, but there's much more to say, I'm sure, with your work. So over to you, Serkan. If you got a presentation to share, happy for you to start.
Hi everybody. You hear me?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for this invitation. Uh, I'm happy to be with you and hearing this other stories of water. So uh, I'm in Istanbul at the moment. Let me briefly tell what I'm doing, and then because it's related to my body of work that I'm going to share with you. So I'm in Istanbul. I'm an artist has with an engineering background. I studied civil engineering and urban design. Many years I did photography as an artistic practice. Uh, and later on, I deal with projects related to walking, mapping, and urban issues, mostly related to Istanbul. But somehow, at the end, now I'm doing my PhD in architecture in Canada. Right, started during the COVID actually. So I follow it from here in Istanbul. So what I'm going, let me summarize what I'm doing as an art architectural practice. So basic then my relation with water. First of all, I did civil engineering, so obviously it's related to water. And my side of engineering, although I've never practiced, but related to hydrology. So, and my focus and my artistic focus a bit mostly related on it. So, in a general sense, the main question is how technopolitical interventions on water impact to social and ecological dynamics. So that's kind of where I'm what I'm dealing with. In order to do that, for the last 6, 7 years, I'm doing a series of uh, research-based artworks called Hydrolab. So I've done already five instances of Hydrolab. First one was it in Hydrolab in Cappadocia, in the middle of Anatolia. It was called Hydrolab Cappadocia. It was dealing with a river called Halis, Turkish in Kızılırmak, which was an ancient river. And I was searching about the impact of dams on the river. So the second is, I'm going to show the latest one of it, but just to summarize the steps. So the second was called Hydrolab Mesopotamia. Obviously, names comes from the region. This is quite has geopolitical connotations. It deals with a certain type of damming structure on the Turkey-Iraq border, which has also military purposes. So border dams. I made a video work out of it and showed in a biennial in Mardin, in the southeastern part of Anatolia. And a parenthesis that I missed to tell, but I have a connection with Antakya, by the way. I should tell this because I'm from that region. My family is from there, not necessarily from Antakya, from the city next to it, Gaziantep. And I spent my childhood on that region, Adana, Gaziantep, and we have a summer house in Antakya. So I know, I've been several times, and I know Asi, and I know the story. And we met with Ebru in Antakya, in Hatay, actually. Hatay, Antakya is another discussion, but anyway. So, okay, let's turn back to Hydrolab. So the third step of Hydrolab is called Hydrolab Attica. And the name comes from Athens, obviously, the basin or the valley around Athens called Attica. So I'm gonna share you the screen. This work is from 2018. The name of the work, as I told you, Hydrolab is the umbrella name of this whole series of works. So the third edition of it, was called Kifissos. First of all, what is Kifissos? Kifissos is the river in Athens, which takes its name from the god of the rivers, actually, god, the Kifissos, the river god. I'm gonna come back to this image, but let me show you, start with a couple of maps. So as most of you are familiar with, I assume that that's the map of Athens. And so it's basically a valley, and the open mouth of the valley is on the Mediterranean side, the Piraeus, and the and the back side, let's say the valley, is the mountain of Pantali, where the famous marble of the Parthenon comes from. So I just want to take your attention to that line, this particular line, which divides Athens sort of into two, the modern Athens sort of into two. That's the river, actually, the Kifissos River, which is the main water body, feeds the Attica plain, basically. So in 2018, that's a close-up picture of the center of Athens. So in 2018, I was invited from an arts initiative called Locus Athens, a curatorial duo, to an exhibition in Athens, which was taking place in the Agricultural University of Athens. So they were using Agricultural University of Athens as their exhibition space. And the scope of the exhibition was ecology, and the reason that they invited me to make a research about the water in Athens. So when I went there, I realized that I'm going to show you on the map. This part of what I show you is the Parthenon and the ancient center of Athens, the Acropolis. So the Agricultural University of Athens is that green land, that green spot, which used to be close to the river. As you see, that's the river line, the Kifissos. But with the expansion of the urban tissue, it had covered all around from all sides with buildings and factories and so on. Therefore, as you might you see, it became like a green island in the middle of this concrete jungle. So when I visited there, I went there and see, that's the Agricultural University of Athens, and their building, and very nice, like an oasis in the concrete jungle of Athens. So back to the map again. So that's the Acropolis back, Agricultural University of Athens, and the river of Kifissos. I'm going to show you how it looks like. So the river of Kifissos, from the god, as I told you, the god of Kifissos, which is this particular marble statue, is from the frieze of Parthenon, which is in the British Museum. So the line of Kifissos, as you see, and the Agricultural University of Kifissos is somewhere around here. So I'm just trying to express the relation of the Agricultural University and the Kifissos. And those are the images of Kifissos from the end of the 19th century or the beginning of 20th century. And again, another picture of Kifissos, which the relation with Piraeus and Athena, and it is catchment area. So the Geoponiko is the Agricultural University of Athens. That's where it's located. But when I go there, I realized that's the situation of Kifissos at the moment. So there is no more river. It's just a concrete canal, and on top of it is the highway between Thessaloniki and Athens. It's the main highway of Greece, actually, highway A1. And it became no more river of Kifissos. It's Kifissos Avenue. So anybody in Athens, if you tell them Kifissos, they recall the Kifissos Highway, Kifissos Avenue. So the memory of the river has already been forgotten in a way. So my gesture was there to how this memory could be could turn to a life, could be remembered. What kind of a gesture? The gesture was I do rowing. I'm an amateur rower. So while I was, again, back to this image, while I was being there, I realized that's such a strange and interesting place to row, actually, to make a rowing, because it's deep enough, the water is stable enough, and straight enough, and like a parkour of a kilometer or more long, and it has an access from the river, from the Mediterranean to the river. And I started to make a research about how this could be possible, and I found that the oldest rowing club of Balkans, which was founded during the first modern Olympics in 1880 something. Sorry, I don't remember now. Was founded in Piraeus, and I had a contact with them and agreed on to support us. And later I asked to the Agricultural University of Athens, their managers, their directors, to establish a rowing club in the university and make a sort of a rowing event, a symbolic rowing event in this particular place, to recall the relation with Agricultural University of Athens and the river back again, because it was this relation that created the Agricultural University. So, and they agreed on, we made an announcement in the Agricultural University to make a rowing club, and they took classes at the rowing, the oldest rowing club of Balkans in the Piraeus for like 3-4 months. And then we organized an event to commemorate, like a commemoration or procession from the Agricultural University of Athens to the river, and to commemorate this situation. And that was our call of the event in May 13 of 2018. So people, I mean, and we made the announcement all around the Athens, of course. It was a call to Kiphisos, because call to the river. So people will gather in the garden of the Agriculture University, and with a Balkan brass band, I found, like a Kusturica movie. With that brass band, we'll make a procession through the river, and then there will be the event. So that's our poster, and I'm going to share you a couple of images from the event. So that's the meeting on the Agriculture University of Athens. That's their back garden, which was a vineyard. It was sort of a research vineyard, a small one, and it goes through because the area between the university campus, small university campus, and the river is surrounded by industrial spaces. The only immigrant refugee camp of Athens, as from the situation that we are, the refugee crisis that were taking place at back then, and still, and residential areas, mostly of middle class settlements. So it took us like 2 hours, like 10 kilometers of distance, having this walk to the river, to the canal, and as a symbolic event of this rowing. They are all just learners of rowing from like 2-3 months of experience from students from the Agriculture University of Athens. These rovers, I mean. And they still doing it, by the way. The club still exists. It was officially declared as a club. So that was briefly it. I just we had some actually video footage, but I couldn't find time to edit for the last 2 years. But I just made a very quick representation to you, just to have an idea. Like, this is not an edited movie, just some clips of things I just did recently before this conversation. Do you hear it? Okay. Oops, sorry. Just oops. Okay. And stop sharing. I think that's enough.
Great.
Yeah. I always
Amazing.
like to finish with. As I told you, I've been several times in Hatay, and I know very well the river and the bridges on it. And I always thought it's very interesting to make such a thing in Hatay. And I was thinking about it, actually.
What a wonderful way to end up this this series of conversation that we had. Thank you, Serkan, so much for sharing